It's well known and universally recognised that cats need meat or components of meat in their diet to provide everything their body needs to stay healthy. So what role does carbohydrate actually play? Can cats even digest them and utilise them? And are they actually damaging a cat's health? Well, I spoke to veterinary nutritionist Dr. Dottie LaFlamme about this, and I started by asking if there are any link between feeding carbohydrate and a range of problems in cats such as diabetes, cancer, and general poor health.
Well, let's start with the short answer. No. If you look at the literature, there are lots of articles that talk about how carbohydrates are bad. And most of that work is coming from the human side, whether it's actually people in the study or mouse models or rat models. They're talking about high carbohydrates bad. But if you look at them, what you find is that those studies were looking at high sugar diets. And if you look a little deeper, what you find is that high carbohydrates, when it's complex carbohydrates, such as whole grains, instead of an adverse effect, you find beneficial health effects. So on the human side, it depends on what kind of carbohydrates we're talking about.
Sure, but we're not tending to give our cats carbonated beverages or candy and things like that. So generally, I guess we're talking about complex carbohydrates. Would that be fair?
Well, I think if we're talking about what's present in diets, it's predominantly complex carbohydrates. But a lot of that, the misperception that carbohydrates are bad, is an extrapolation of the sugar. And there have been studies done with cats over several decades. You are aware of a review article that some of us did where we looked at all of the literature, all of the data that's out there relative to the impact of carbohydrates on cats. And what we found in that very extensive review is that there is no evidence of adverse effects from carbohydrates in the diet so long as the diet provides all of the essential nutrients that cats have. And I qualify it in that way because if you fed a really, really high carbohydrate diet, then you're probably not going to be providing enough protein, enough fat, and enough other nutrients, and that can contribute to an issue. So our group that did that review basically found that of the data available, carbohydrate can provide up to as much as 50% of the calories in the diet without causing any adverse effects. Again, so long as there's enough protein in the diet and fat doesn't have to be particularly high, but the lower the carbohydrate, the higher the fat will be, because a diet you got 100%. And if you take one piece of it away, the other two pieces have to make up the difference. And so usually a low carbohydrate diet is higher in fat as well as higher in protein. So in terms of adverse effects from high carbohydrate, really in a healthy cat, it's only if it's so high that it contributes to loss of the other essential nutrients. Again, with the healthy cats, the opposite could have to be considered. What about low carbohydrate diets? Are there adverse effects? And as I was just mentioning, when you take away one nutrient, the other macronutrients make up the difference. So most low carbohydrate diets are actually high in fat. Fat is much higher in calories than carbohydrate. And so high fat diets actually are a risk factor for obesity. And obesity is a risk factor for a number of health problems in cats as well as other species.
One of the other common concerns with a high carbohydrate diet, which are normally dry kibble diets, is that they're actually making cats chronically dehydrated. So tap on this video to see if dry kibble diets are affecting a cat's long-term health by causing problems such as kidney failure. Make sure you tap on that, and until the next time, I'm veterinarian Dr. Alex. This is Our Pet's Health, because they're family.